Alright, welcome back again to the first Descendants. Obviously, we have been gone a while without any news or any information about the brand new season, but today we've got a brand new huge update from the developers just a few days before Season 1 does begin. So let's go ahead and see exactly what the developers has been saying in this brand new update. If you guys do enjoy this video, please drop a like down below and subscribe if you are new. Let's try to get this video to 200 likes, that would be absolutely amazing. And let's go ahead and begin. So this update comes in from Twitter from the developers, and let's go ahead and see exactly what they said. It's a two-parter. There is so much info that came out, but beginning, it does state, let's start with the recent news. The update schedule was originally announced as a 3-part, but then changed to 2, and the ultimate was significantly moved up. Considering the development schedule, that couldn't have been easy. Are you guys okay? They responded by saying, we got a lot of feedback saying the third update was too far off, so we knew we had to do something about it. The problem was that early October quite have a few holidays, plus there's something like company anniversary, so we weren't sure if we could make the schedule work. In the end, we just decided everyone would come into work. So far, no employees have objected, laughs. They seem to be hitting the like button out of habit, but I'm not sure if they really like it. Taking all the into account and ensuring the bare minimum survival of our staff, this is the fastest schedule we could come up with, which kind of makes sense actually. I don't want to overwork the developers too much because they are human too. So the next question is a huge one. It says, it's been about 2 months since you launched the live service in early July. I imagine there's a lot of internal changes due the pre-season, and have there been any shifts in the development direction and operational policies, like how you handle OP characters or content structure design? And they answered in a few different ways, and it's a big one. So they said, let's talk about OP builds first. The strength of the OP builds that players are currently grinding out isn't within our expectations. However, the speed at which they are doing it is much faster than we anticipated. Before the service launch, we thought that we'd only need to worry about how the content would handle these powerful builds once we hit Season 1. But we've had to think about this season pre-season. We've been constantly brainstorming what kind of content in Season 1 can keep up with this. Also, the direction of builds was somewhat different from what we expected. We thought that the wider variety of build would be used, but ultimately, builds that drastically increase damage output to skip patterns and reduce time become norm. You could say the average user specs have skyrocketed towards offense rather than defense or utility. While we didn't expect this, look at the situation. It was inevitable. Players were always seeking the most efficient method, so builds that allow for quick repeated attempts naturally became efficient. This led to builds focused on extreme damage increase. As a result, our direction has shifted from various gimmicks and diversity to faster combats, more monsters and more loot. Overall, we're moving towards implementing gimmicks that forcibly take up time. For example, we've removed the mechanic of escorting while depleting shields from high-level infiltration operations, and we've changed all the time-consuming capture zones to pure extermination. Actually, in the early stages of development, we only had extermination during internal testings. We added various types of gimmicks because it seemed like it would be more fun and have more mechanics, but now it feels like we've come in full circle. The direction of changes applies directly to the invasion mode introduced in Season 1. While invasion has puzzle gimmicks, it's designed so that the gamers figure out quickly they can trigger an overload and progress without necessarily having to wait. So yeah, I'm guessing they did have a type of thought process about how they wanted the first Descendants to be, but considering how the community works and how they've worked in a lot of different games, it kind of comes full circle that people just want the most damage, want to be the most powerful they could be. So removing things that slow down the game is definitely not a good idea. So they're changing that for us to be even more powerful, be even faster. So that's great. Next up, they did say, is the socket type change being introduced in Season 1 as a result of these considerations? So they said, yes, that's right. As I mentioned earlier, we hope players would rotate through various Descendants, but realistically, that there were far more attempts to concentrate growth on the Descendants and make them an all-rounder. However, currently, once you expand a socket, you can't change this type, so it's difficult to change the direction of your build even using the preset function. It's also hard to attempt to build changes because even if you use additional catalysts to change a socket type, you all still have to level up again, so we're changing them. So that once you apply a catalyst, you can freely change socket types. This allows more diverse attempts, and you can save these presets so you can switch to any builds you need at any time. Now, the only thing that would actually go and add myself to this is, can we just please change the socket types as much as we want to just be free from grinding levels over and over and over again? It would make the game so much easier to play. Isn't the fundamental reason that it takes too long to max out a single Descendant? If Descendant growth was faster, wouldn't we see more diverse use of Descendants as you originally envisioned? They responded by saying, we didn't run away in any game events during the preseason. Starting from Season 1, we plan to boost growth externally through in-game events, and we're also planning an overall update to experience points efficiently. I think growth speed will probably pick up compared to the preseason. So let's just hope that is actually the case. Another thing I want to ask about is that there were very little motivation to play non-ultimate Descendants. This was because ultimate Descendants were perfect upgrades to regular Descendants. How do you plan to motivate players to use regular Descendants? They said this is an issue we're considering pretty important and in need of an update. We intended for players to experience and use regular Descendants first before moving into ultimates. But since regular Descendants pale in comparison to ultimates in the endgame, most people just don't bother with them and waited for ultimates. We haven't decided the exact method yet, but we are thinking of a system where growth in regular Descendants can retroactively applied to transfer to ultimate Descendants. That would be pretty good actually, that's kind of a good idea. The next one was, I also want to ask about ultimate unique weapons. Except for a few weapons, their usefulness is very low. Besides new weapons being added, are there any plans to improve existing low utility weapons? And they said, to be honest, I don't think you believe me if I just said it, so I was planning to show results one by one later. But to tell you in advance, we are preparing reworks and balancing for all of them. All the weapons and Descendants currently deemed useless will have their day in the sun someday. For Season 1, major changes are planned for Ajax, Blair, and Jaber. The next one is, I also want to ask about the balance between gunplay and power fantasy. Although all the Descendants have unique abilities, their utility varies greatly for some Descendants. It's better to just use gunplay without their abilities. What do you think about this? And they responded by saying, I think this issue will also be mitigated as we add more content. For example, Lepek and Bunny are currently showing powerful performances. Lepek is strong at dealing massive damage, while Bunny excels in handling wide areas. On the other hand, it's true that Descendants like Freyna, Blair, Isomer don't have specialized uses in the current content structure. Once we provide content where these Descendants are highly useful, research will naturally progress. I think a time will come when players will fulfill their power fantasy by utilizing Descendant skills in addition to simply gunplay. So I really do hope the Descendants that don't see the light of day actually get their time on screen, because characters like Isomo are a joke to people because no one plays him. So we'll see how that plays out. Now this next one, this is the part 2, they talk about the actual season. Let's talk about Season 1 content. Can you explain the inversion system in detail? So they said, the inversion system is kind of a season limited buff system. You level up the inversion reinforcement device by earning specific experience points while playing invasion dungeons and unlock buffs one by one. You choose up to 8 buffs from different categories. This inversion system mostly consists of buffs that make it easier to overcome the gimmicks in invasion dungeons. It doesn't take too long to fully unlock. We designed it so that even users with limited daily playtime can unlock it, and it meshes well with existing builds. So they go ahead and talk about the brand new Descendant Hailey, and they said, how difficult is it to obtain the new Descendant Hailey? They responded by saying that the method of obtaining Hailey is a little bit different from before. We've tried to minimize random variables. When you clear an invasion operation, you'll get a trophy grade based on your results, clear time, and score. You'll then receive a fixed amount of blueprint fragments according to your grade. For example, if you get a gold trophy, you'll receive 3 blueprint fragments. You collect these to craft her. However, invasion operations are limited to twice a day, so you can also farm fragments from other infiltration operations, but these drops are probabilistic, not fixed amounts, so even if gamers who can't play for long can definitely craft her, while those who invest more time can craft her faster. Now this question, going back to Hailey, says, one more question about Hailey. There were controversy because the module update schedule was separated. What's the reason for this? First, let me be clear, we didn't do this out of malicious intent, but to torment users. For Descendants prepared after the initial batch, starting with Hailey, we had planned to update the Transcendent modules after a bit of time. We expected to show that Descendants is highly useful even without Transcendent modules, and then let players design their final builds with the modules later. But thinking about it now, that was probably a misjudgment on our part. If people dislike it this much, we can't do it again next time, can we? This question says, are there any new modules being added into Season 1? We don't have any plans for new modules yet. There are many builds that diverge based on modern choices, so adding even one more modules requires a lot of consideration. While we don't plan to add new modules in Season 1, we are constantly planning new ones. Yeah, I mean, trying to add one module can completely change the game how it plays, so they do have to take some time with that. So they said, can you tell us a bit more about Deathstalker, the new intercept battle boss? It's hard to reveal all the patterns, but I think it's gluttony level difficulty. Currently, gluttony is the hardest boss, and before that, it was Frostwalker. When gluttony came out, we adjusted Frostwalker's difficulty similarly. When Deathstalker comes out, we plan to adjust gluttony's difficulty as well. And that's pretty much it for this video. There was a few more points in here that were not really too important to go on, but I will link the entire interview down in the comments for you guys to check out on your own. We probably just skipped like 2 or 3 of them that weren't really too crazy, talking about how do you get Freyna, Ultimate Freyna, for example. Stuff like that, not really too crazy. Anyway, that's it for this video, just trying to give you guys an insight on exactly what's going to be coming out in the future. So we are going to be expecting a lot more updates with Season 1 that we haven't seen before. Let me know in the comments your thoughts about everything we've seen and talked about today, and I'll see you all on the next one.